Hi, welcome to The Inner Way, a video series exploring the spirituality of the Orthodox Church. I'm your host, Father David Smith. We're going to start a series today. I don't know how long it's going to be, but we're going to be looking at a book called Unseen Warfare. This is published by Faber and Faber. We're going to start by looking at individual chapters of the book. They're very short, and there are a lot of them, but as is the case when we were talking about St. Ezekias, and as the case when we were talking about St. Isaac of Syria, there is a lot of writing. And certainly we could spend many weeks together going over each little part of the writings of any of those saints. I don't know if I'm going to go as quickly through this particular book because there is just so much there. This was written originally in Italian, translated into Russian, and then translated into Greek, and then translated into English. The interesting thing about this book is that every translator added their own changes and their own sort of reflections into the original text. And so you had a saint in Russia who did the translation, who added his own parts to the book, and then a saint in Greece who did the translation from the Russian and added his own parts. So this book has been through an awful lot over the years, but as a result of that, it just contains such a wealth of truth pertaining to the spiritual life, and is really well worth our time. I've read this book a number of times in my life, and I always am amazed at how accessible it is, really, to those of us who are not monastics. It's accessible, and it's beautifully written, and it has some remarkable advice in it. We're going to start with chapter 1, and the chapter 1 begins with the title of it is Christian Perfection. So we're starting right off with Christian perfection. So that's our goal. That's our goal. We're not going to start off by saying, buy a Bible and make sure you have a time to pray and things like that. No, we're looking at where we're going to end, where we're aiming for, and then we're going to determine how we get there. Right away, what a great offering to us in the realm of spirituality. So we're learning about Christian perfection, and this is the first thing he says. I will tell you plainly, the greatest and most perfect thing anyone may desire to obtain is to come near to God and dwell in union with Him. So right away, we have our goal. We know what we're aiming for. If there's something that we do differently in our life, or if there's something we do that we have always done in our life, but we do it differently because we know now, we remember our goal, that makes just that one paragraph worth so much to us. What is our goal? Our goal is union with God. This is why I talk so often about the Jesus prayer. That's what I experience personally, and I know other people do in the Jesus prayer. You come into the presence of God, not wanting anything, not telling Him anything, but simply dwelling with Him. What a wonderful tool that is for us. So Christian perfection really comes in two parts. This is what Scupoli, this is what this book, Unseen Warfare, is setting up for us. The first part is the means, and the second part is the end. There are things that we do, but we always have to remember we are doing those things in order to reach a particular goal. Let me read on. There are many who say that the perfection of Christian life consists in fasts, vigils, genuflections, sleeping on bare earth, and other similar austerities of the body. Others say that it consists in saying many prayers at home and in attending long services in church. And there are others who think that our perfection consists entirely in mental prayer, solitude, seclusion, and silence. But the majority limit perfection to a strict observance of all the rules and practices laid down by the statutes, falling into no excess or deficiency, but preserving a golden moderation. Yet all these virtues do not by themselves constitute the Christian perfection we are seeking, but they are only means and methods of acquiring it. So, this is what I just said. We have a goal and we have means to get there. We have to remember that those are two different things, the goal and the means. So we embrace the means. Is he saying that we shouldn't go to church if it's too long, or we shouldn't pray long prayers at home, or that we shouldn't keep the fast? Not at all. Not at all. Those are the means. But we cannot make those the goal. We cannot make those the end. I like to compare this sometimes to a musician. And the thing that we do as musicians, I play the violin, is I always like to warm up by playing some scales. Just a C scale, a D scale, a G scale, just playing them, getting the bow going the right direction, getting my fingers used to playing, and so on. But can you imagine a musician? You wouldn't really call the person a musician, someone who plays an instrument but only plays scales and plays them in kind of beautiful, unique, interesting ways, but only plays scales. See, that's not the purpose of playing the instrument. I don't play the violin so that I can play scales. I play the scales so that I can reach this other goal, the other goal of actually producing beautiful music, if I can, right? But this is the same with the spiritual life. We have means and we have an end. We cannot make the means the only thing that we do. I have another passage that I want to quote from. If desirous of bringing them to self-knowledge and of leading them to the right path of perfection, God sends them afflictions and sickness, or allows them to be persecuted, by which means he habitually tests his true and real servants. This test immediately shows what is hidden in their hearts and how deeply they are corrupted by pride. Let me stop there for a moment. He's talking about those who are employing the means to reach the end. And he says that even in the course of using those means, we will experience afflictions, sicknesses, persecutions, and so on. Those things come sometimes from God. I'm amazed at the word that is used there. He habitually tests his true and real servants. This is not something that is outside the realm of possibility, that we who love God with all our hearts suffer. I've talked about this before on the Inner Way. It's something that I talk about with parishioners all the time, because sometimes people experience great amounts of pain and great amounts of suffering. And they come and they say, why am I involved in all of this stuff if it doesn't make my life better? Well, this is the answer here. God sends us afflictions in order to help us to see where we are. Are we stuck on the means, or are we moving toward the goal? I'll read on from where I stopped. For whatever affliction may visit them, they refuse to bend the necks to the yoke of God's will and to trust in his righteous and secret judgments. They do not want to follow the example of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Son of God, who humbled himself and suffered for our sakes. And they refuse to be humble, to consider themselves the lowest of all creatures, and to regard their persecutors as their good friends, the tools of the divine bounty shown to them, and helpers in their salvation. Wow, what a thing to say. Those who are persecuting you, you look upon them as helpers in your salvation. What is the thing that occurs to us as we find ourselves genuinely moving toward the goal? It is humility. I've been with people sometimes who seem like very humble people, and yet when they are under just even a little bit of stress, they reveal themselves as anything but humble. I myself have done that at times, found myself overwhelmed by anger at some tiny little thing that someone has done to me. And then I stop and I know that this person was sent by God in order to help me to understand that even though I was employing the means, I was not moving any closer to the goal. Well, we've started off today with this wonderful book, Unseen Warfare. It's available, I know maybe not in this edition, but it is available, and a beautiful book for every Christian to have and possess. We're going to look at chapter 2 next week of Unseen Warfare. I hope that you can join us, and until then, God bless you, and I'll see you in church.